we've had the last few weekends. For the last few Mondays. But I'm Catherine Hazard-Flynn. I am one of the folks on the board here at the Southbury Church, and we are so lucky to have Jason Cabral with us. Before I read Jason's bio, I want to remind everybody, if you want to get on our mailing list, there's a piece of paper out there that you can sign, and there's also, Jason has the Gamm schedule for this winter, so when the weather's really bad, and you want to get to a nice warm place, you can go to Gamm. But anyway, Jason has been the executive director of the Gamm Theatre since August of 23. I actually worked with his husband, that's how we know each other so well. He's a mission-driven leader and has notable experience driving fundraising campaigns and operations in nonprofits nationwide, here and in Rhode Island, in New York City, Los Angeles, at the Public Theater and the Jazz at Lincoln Center in New York. He held management roles and developed the first donor-giving program to raise over $24 million annually. He has an M.F.A. from Wayne State University. Are you originally from Michigan?
No, I'm here.
That's what I thought. Okay. Going to Wayne State threw me off. Anyway, and a BA in theatrical performance at Rhode Island College. Prior to working as an administrator, he was an actor and a teaching artist. So, Jason Cabral.
Thank you.
If anybody needs to move forward, there are plenty of seats in the front.
Thank you, Catherine, for inviting me. I know Liza Collins also brought my name up.
Yes, she sure did.
As well, so thank you to her. I don't see her in the crowd. For this opportunity to speak with you all today. If I'm not loud enough, just raise your hand and I will increase my volume. I'm happy to do so. The great thing about being an executive director of the theater is that I don't have to memorize my lines, so I brought my script with me. So as I look down at this, I just ask for your patience as I read some up. Hopefully I'll be able to lift the lines off the page so that we actually have a dialogue here today. I must admit, when Catherine first invited me to speak at a church, I was concerned, but then I did my little research, and I was quickly felt at ease and comforted and excited to be with you all today. So thank you. I'm truly humbled to be here. I grew up in a church, actually. I was born and raised in Fallbrook, Massachusetts, to Portuguese immigrant parents, and they raised me devoutly to be Roman Catholic. Going to the church as a young boy with my brothers, it was like going to a second home. We viewed the church as a place that we had such a strong sense of family, of community, of tradition within our culture. When I walk into a church now, perhaps we have a similar feeling. No matter how ornate or modest the church is, there is always this undeniable feeling of respect and reverence and peace and calm. And over the years, that is what the theater has given me. The theater, in one way or another, has provided me what the church provided me for so many years. Unlike a soccer match or a magic show, the theater is an intimate space that for me carries forward so much of the principles that I looked for when I went to the church. Akin to a sermon at the pulpit, our plays engage our community in her initiatives, not to be didactic, but to simply present humanity back onto itself, for consideration and for reflection like we do in church. As Hamlet himself says, to hold us toward the mirror up to nature, to show virtue her feature, scorn her own image, and the very age and body of time is form and impression. Or even more poignantly, one of my favorite quotes from Harry Belafonte. He says, artists have a valuable function in any society since it is the artist who reveals the society to itself. theater, by this country, prompts us to confront the realities, however fabulous and horrific, with our community. The work on our stages at the Gamm should help spark civic discourse and debate that allows us to find common ground amidst our collective diversity, to learn and to grow as individuals and as a society. At the Gamm, we embrace this role, using the power of storytelling to illuminate the shared human experience. So while I've stepped away from practicing Catholicism, which my mother is not happy with, I look to theater to find those same principles, to find connection with others, to learn and grow as an individual, contributing to a productive society, and at times to heal. And hopefully, by the end of the speech, you might consider joining our congregation at the Gamm Theatre if you're not already a member. A joke. Last week marked my 1-year anniversary at the Gamm, and over the past year, I've worked with my co-pilot and now dear friend, Artistic Director Tony Strella, to identify and build plans for solving some of the key challenges that we're facing as we head into our 40th anniversary, while also not losing sight of our future, our plans for the future, and where we want to be when we turn 50. Now, if you've worked at a nonprofit in your life, or if you ever had a hand in any arts nonprofit, there's always an element of building the plane while flying it. And that's very much what we've been doing this past year as we help to move our plans forward to find sustainability in the work that we do. Now, chief among the challenges that we face over the past several years, should be no surprise to you all, is the lingering impact of the pandemic on our operation and our finances. And as much as we want to say it's over and behind us, it isn't when we look at our balance sheet. And that is something that we face as a reality day after day. The Gamm, like many other arts organizations, regionally and nationally, had the wind taken from under its sail and it closed its doors in March of 2020. For a business built on live, in-person, intimate interaction, we were lost, as many arts organizations were. For those in the audience that don't, the Gamm moved to Warwick in 2018 from its longtime location in Pawtucket and prior to that Providence, and was quite a climb in terms of audience engagement and attendance. In the year leading up to our closure, the Gamm had over 20,000 tickets sold, which filled 85% of its theater's capacity for the season. And that was an increase of 11% from the prior year. That was an upward climb. And this trend was exciting, provided the risk that it took to make the move from Pawtucket to Warwick. When March 2020 came around, that momentum was lost almost completely. We went from having nearly $1 million in earned revenue in a year to less than $100,000, which cut our budget nearly in half. Which, of course, as you can imagine, impacted staffing, decisions, programming, and our ability to fulfill our mission as we knew it. But we weren't alone. I remember I was working at Center Theater in Los Angeles at the time that the pandemic had started, which is the largest nonprofit professional theater in LA with an operating budget of $60 million. And they had reduced their operations to $20 million. And an organization of that size and scale and access to the resources that they have access to similarly had the same questions and were dealing with the same problems as the small organization that the Gamm Theatre was at that time. Everyone was figuring it out as we went. We simply leaned on what we do best, which was our community, be it our peer arts organizations or our local patrons and volunteer board members that are here in the house today to help as we navigated the unknown. I remember there was an article, I believe it was from the Los Angeles Times, so I didn't type it, I didn't check before, wrote this speech. That came out around the fall of 2020, as we were in the thick of burnout and uncertainty about the future of the arts. And it spoke to the role the arts and creative sector had as the pandemic's inherent second responders, needing to be ready to help our communities come back together and heal after losing pieces of our humanity. We crave that human interaction. And for us, that article, that narrative, it reinforced how essential we were in providing just a bit of hope that we needed to keep moving forward and pushing forward to when we would be able. So in all of this, there are a number of obstacles that the Gamm is facing, stemming from the challenges of the pandemic. I want to talk through a few of them with you today before we head to the exciting information about what's to come. First, of course, I think goes without saying, financial sustainability and the health of our fundraising programs to safeguard risk in areas that are not fundraising sales. For me, working as a fundraising professional during the pandemic, all eyes were on us during those years. How can your team's work help to make up our losses? Perhaps it's the Portuguese upbringing and work ethic that pushes me to want to solve any problem that I'm presented with, but it was a great one to consider, and one that I'm certainly considering at the Gamm, and have been considering at the Gamm this past year. How can we think bigger than we currently do to inspire increased philanthropic support in a meaningful way? Now, practically, this was particularly difficult at the Gamm this past year. Before I arrived in August, both our fundraising staff members left the organization, and they would be the ones that would sustain this critical work. So in the end, my direction to the staff was that we were all stewards of the theater, all play a critical role in maintaining the positive relationships of anyone who walks through our doors. No matter their job title or responsibilities, you're an ambassador for our mission and our work, and providing we can do our due diligence to make sure our local patrons feel grateful for their investment in our theater. We are well on our way to sustainability. So that was the number one priority to turn around, the stewardship of the people that came. And more importantly, I think what this forced is Tony and I to work together with our teams to start talking about the future, to really build a roadmap for where we're headed. What is our North Star? Where do we want to be 10 years from now? Questions that the Gamm, in my opinion, had not wholly considered outside of needing to move to a bigger theater more. Leaning in on where our programming was going today and where it will be 10 years from now. Though this work is ongoing, and we certainly plan to share pieces of this vision with our audiences as we head into our 40th anniversary season. It is necessary for articulating opportunities to our most loyal and engaged community members to more increase support, funding not only our operations today, which is essential, but also plans for growth in future seasons. The second challenge, which I think is the obvious one, is audience retention and engagement. In the year after the pandemic, the Gamm's ability to meet its capacity dropped from that 85% to 52%. Similar to small churches not being able to bring people back to a congregation. It was difficult, and people were slow to return. And with our primary demographic being patrons above the age of 65, there is no doubt a sense of fear and risk for returning to the activities they love so dearly. Unfortunately, the hard reality of this is that we were limited to what we could go out in terms of digital content to drive engagement. We had our agreement with our actors union. And it was certainly important to Tony, as it would have been for me if I was at the Gamm during this period, that the Gamm maintain its core identity of both theater and intimate setting. So with our resources and our human capacity, we in and of itself, adjusting how we program to meet these audience engagement needs was not in the cards. However, this past year, season 39, Tony set out to select a season that made people want to come back to the theater. Shows that were recognizable and demonstrated the value of our live performance. In the end, his decision helped to shift the tides. My opinion on how many people here came to see Who's Afraid of Virginia Woolf at Gamm Theatre? Okay, a handful. That show alone reached 92% of our theater's capacity. And the primary driver of ticket sales for that production was word of mouth, with those to say what that can do on a small scale. Word of mouth. So the only cost to us in that model is the investment in good stewardship of our patrons when they're coming into our theater and continuing to produce work that embodies excellence. So this past season, cumulatively, we have reached 79% of our performance capacity, up from the 52% just 2 years ago. So it is a demonstration that people are coming back, but we still have a ways to go to be back where we were prior to the pandemic. Another obstacle, challenge that we face is attracting new audiences, building up the next generation of theater goers alongside the competing nature of this digital media age. It's no surprise, I'm sure, that the use of social media and streaming platforms to engage in entertainment was on the rise these past few years. I'm guilty a consumer myself. Who doesn't love a home makeover show or a crime docu-series while they're sitting on the couch? The relationship we've now built with our phones and our devices certainly has an impact on the live entertainment industry, including the theater. Why go out when I have this on my Netflix subscription? I can just stay here and watch. So this year, the Gamm needs to interrogate this question and double down on responding to it. When we were talking about this season, 40th anniversary season, Tony and we had 15 to 20 shows. And they were great shows. And I think we landed with quite an incredible lineup. We discussed the need to lean in to our collective craving for a digital detox, unplugging from our devices and unplugging back into humanity in a way. The beautiful thing about theater in an artificial, intelligent, growing world is that it still remains a human endeavor, and hopefully it always will, or at least it always will at Gamm. People have to make it. People have to participate and consume it. Our human fingerprints will always be on it. So that getting audiences to consider this as essential is what we hope to achieve in our outreach marketing campaign this coming season. Additionally, when we think about the next generation of theater goers, there are two things we think about. Actively planning for ways to engage in other hobbies, which is always tough. Every arts organization is struggling with how and why. And we, like everyone else, offer a ton of discount opportunities. We've launched a new membership program this year to provide increased accessibility, and we're now pairing it with pre- and post-show events like tours, talks with artists, discussions, conversations with your peers and perceptors, in hopes that would hold people there or get people there. Because all we need is to get them in the house, provided the product is great, which it is, I'm biased, but it is. Then it's our job to just sustain that engagement. How do we get them to return? Was that a nice night out? And let's get you to come back for another one. And then core to our mission is the work that we do in schools around the state, bringing access to theater and students from all grades and socioeconomic backgrounds. This investment is the true cultivation of literacy and understanding of text, but also planting the seeds for an appreciation for the arts that will live on into the future, provide back to our country. So this brings me to the heart of what we do here. We tell stories, of course, that entertain, provoke, and engage seriously in the most important issues of our time, just as we hear at the church. While we serve our public by providing educational programming, public audience, the conversations we have after the show is just as much an educational program as the work that we do in the classroom with students. This is rooted in the season we select and the engagement we build around that season. So let's talk about the season. This is usually Tony's job, but I'll do my best. Tony, our artistic director, has been there for over 20 years, and heading into our 40th anniversary was a hard one for him, in my own words, because I could see he wanted to get it right. And the Gamm prides itself in providing a mix of both new contemporary work as well as classic works that are reimagined. And I think doing it service at the value that we expect, the highest level of excellence that we expect, is what he has to take into mind when we consider the productions. What I have to take into mind is what will it do in terms of bottom line, what will it do in terms of audience development and bringing people to the theater. So there's a mix there. And while there's a unique relationship that I'm not sure many people know in arts organizations where you have the executive director and you have the artistic director, which both report up to the board of directors. The artistic director, whom is relevant up here, he is in charge of the artistic integrity of the organization, ensuring that we're fulfilling our mission, as it's stated in our charter, with our season and artistic program. My role is to manage the business, to make sure that the business is sustainable alongside the artistic work that we do. And in the season selection process, there was quite a great back and forth of him coming up with a selection of shows and us talking about why. And me providing numbers and saying, here's what this selection of season does for us in terms of bottom line. And the back and forth was lovely. And what we learned in our analysis is that there's a mix of wanting to, there's a mix of wanting to do the recognizable show, the titles that we know and know well, is that will easily have someone renew their subscription or come back to doing the new work that's core to our mission. There's a balancing act to get that selected, and I think what we landed on is a perfect mix of both worlds. So this season, he selected a slate of shows, apologies, that not only speak to the moment we're in as a theater, in terms of excellence and growth and our production value, but also our society, reflecting the richness of humanity in asking the question, what it means to love. Shows ranging from the intimate to the epic, shows that embody identity in the form. So first up is a play called M.F.A. by Lucy Cabral. And this is a thought-provoking contemporary drama that started its life overseas in National Theatre. The likes of which audiences in our recent survey noted they appreciate most of it. A little louder? Will do. Sure. Yes. The brochure that you'll be receiving has the show lineup in it with some of these descriptions as a helpful guide. But the survey that we sent to our subscribers and our patrons, we asked, what do you like? What genres do you like? Like a musical, a play, a classic, a comedy, and what came back above all was a contemporary drama, a new drama, which I was surprised to see. And this feeds that exactly. It asks the question, can love be manufactured in a pill? It's a powerful story about the fragility of human connection and the forces that shape our emotions. In a world where technology and science are constantly advancing, the effect challenges us to consider how much of what we feel is truly our own is. A terrifying thought, but worth seeing. And that starts our season at the end of September. The next up, I think, needs little introduction, is Amadeus by Peter Schaefer. I'm sure many of you have seen the film. This is sure to be a dazzling production. Tony, Australia Artistic Director, will be partnering with Judith Stillman as a music director and pianist who is very well known in the industry. And this will be an opulent story about passion, obsession, and the pursuit of greatness. The sort of bitter rivalry between Salieri and Mozart is one to watch on stage. And in today's digital age of social media and instant fame, Amadeus asks us the question to think about what it really means to create something of lasting power. What endures after death? So that starts in November. Following that, we have Girls and Boys by M.F.A. This is a new contemporary piece as well. It's a one-woman show that is both intimate and absolutely devastating. The play tells a beautiful story of a woman whose perfect life takes a dark turn and acts as a reminder that behind every story is a person grappling with their own struggles. A play that will surely challenge your feelings of empathy as we ask the question, how do we go on after loss? That starts in January. And then following that, we have Stephen Adley Burgess's Between Riverside and Crazy. This is a raw, funny, Pulitzer Prize-winning play about a man caught between his past and his present. It's a play that asks him to consider what it means to stand by your beliefs in the face of systemic pressures. That starts in February. Then to celebrate our 40th anniversary season in Gamm style, we are bringing back a production that we've done twice before, in 1997 and 2011. And that is the masterpiece of masterpieces, Hamlet by William Shakespeare. Hamlet reminds us, of course, of the enduring power of great art to make sense of it all. That starts April 3rd. Finally, we close our season with a bonus production series of Angels in America by Tony Kushner. Both parts to be staged in June for the first part and then September for the second part. This two-part, epic, gorgeous production has often been hailed as the greatest piece of work in the last 40 years, which seemed appropriate to mark our 40th anniversary birthday season. And as I'm sure many of you know, it's set during the AIDS epidemic in New York City in the 80s and explores the themes of love, politics, religion, and identity. To this day, I think it still asks us what we owe one another. And if that isn't enough to fill your theatrical coffers, we have a great deal more planned for our film. Including, we are now going to be screening productions from the National Theatre in London. So come on by with you to watch. We'll have 3 of those productions throughout the season. And then we're going to host 2 special programming evenings in Providence and in Pawtucket by our old stomping grounds to commemorate the history of the 40 years. And as we chart a path for our future, we want to tell the story of where we've been as we're looking to tell the story of where we're heading. Those dates and details of what that program will look like will be announced at a later date. In closing, I'd like to talk briefly about this milestone here. Some of you heard a portion of this at our annual gala this year. So forgive me. Tony posed a simple and somewhat profound question to me when we were planning for our 40th season. He said, what does it mean to turn 40? And I looked at him and said, You tell me, I don't know. I said, I'll be turning 40 myself next year. So reflecting on that, I realized the questions that I'm asking about my life mirror those that the Gamm is asking about its life today. Are we fit to grow mentally, physically, operationally? How do we ensure our financial stability and invest wisely in our future? And importantly, are we nurturing the relationships that sustain us? So I strongly believe the Gamm is no longer a small, scrappy theater it once was in Providence and Pawtucket. Our core values of perseverance and excellence remain at the heart of our work every day. And as we transition into this mid-sized organization we've now become moving to Warwick, we recognize that our state, our small state of Rhode Island, is watching us closely, as seen with the numbers that we've received. Who's afraid of Virginia York? And with this attention comes responsibility to rise to the occasion. And I have no doubt with communities like this that we will absolutely meet that challenge. And that is my speech.
Julian, can I just make a pitch? Jason, sorry. You guys are starting to look. We've been trying to get more and more people from South County to come up. It was too far when it was in Pawtucket, but now it's 20 minutes. And that was one of our pushes this year, is to how do we increase our participation to Quinnipiac Island and South County, which is a whole lot easier. So even though there are only a few of us here, pass the word around that this is a theater that is, I mean, I think it's amazing. I see theater in New York, I see theater in Florida, and so when I started on the board, I said, well, this will be interesting. And it has been amazing for 4 years, no matter how bad it seemed financially. The plays that were put on were spectacular always. As of course, that you probably I'm speaking to the choir maybe here, but just pass the word.
It's a great facility. Where they're located now, so.
Oh, it's fabulous.
We have parking. We have plenty of parking. Thank you for saying that. It means so much. And since the move to Warwick, the numbers from South County are growing quite considerably. We'd like to see it. And we've been doing our best in terms of marketing, attending Easter egg strolls, in order to really make sure people are aware that the Gamm exists, and it's just a short drive away. I promise you, seeing one production will hook you, and you'll come back for more. So, and word of mouth really does go a long way for us. So if you can, thank you for saying that. And as we've talked about the future of the Gamm, that question of how we engage outside of the world has come up. And we're unpacking what that means for us in order for us to come closer to you if we can, if it means, if it's possible, financially.
What's your optimum in terms of, you said you got to 84%. Now, you want to get to 95%. I mean, you're going to be a mid-sized theater. Correct. So what does that look like in the best possible scenario?
I think above 90%, because we're a small space, so our theater seats 184 people per performance, which is an increase from 134 when we were in Pawtucket. And I think with that, if we hit above 90% as a cumulative average, which we're not there yet, only at 79 for the cumulative average, we are in good financial standing in terms of what we can expect to receive from producing shows. Of course, there's the other side of the equation that says, you know, what can you raise in terms of sponsorship funds for productions as well. But I think 90 starts to open up the question of what else can we do? Our space, if you've been to our space, which is really, really extraordinary, used to be the old Ocean State Theater that produced musicals. Say it again? Not for long. That is correct. There is a proscenium space in our theater that we don't use often, and that holds 310 seats. So that sits vacant for a while we curtain off what looks like a black box theater to produce our shows. And that we're moving in the direction of really maximizing that space, which is great. It begs the question, what would it look like to produce more in this space? What do we have to do in the space for the theater in order to have another show running at the same time as one other show? So it starts to expand us in a way what other producing is possible.
There are those of us in the audience who are very involved in the nonprofit arts down here, and what one of our financial issues always has been is that a lot of the money from RISCA, Rhode Island State Council on the Arts, stays in the northern part of the state. We just don't get it down here. Do you benefit from that?
We do benefit from RISCA, but we only get a small fraction, and they also have a very small budget to work with. So it's partially what the state provides, which I think is where we need to make the most change. This past year, we partnered with arts organizations across the state, the likes of Trinity Rep, the Rhode Island College, Newport Ballet, Contemporary Ballet, in order to ask for funds for the arts because it had not been allocated in the budget. And through that lobbying work, what we got was the option for a bond, which would go to vote in November. And that bond, if I remember the numbers correctly, it's largely allocated to capital projects, which limits what we can do with the money. And like the Gamm, one of the key issues with the Gamm, where we moved forward, is that we don't own the building that we're in. So a capital project is not our first priority. We wouldn't want to invest in a building that we don't own. So it limits how much we can get from that pot that will ultimately go to some named organizations and then to RISCA. I think the pot that RISCA will get in that bond is $6 million. No, $2 million. To be split up against 40 arts organizations. Right. And that's what we've seen in places like that. So something else needs to be done at the state level to really increase the demand for arts.
The arts are getting money from the COVID money.
We did receive grants, yes. All of our organizations did, but that's dry now. It was our attempt in this coalition effort, because there was still money left in, it's escaping me. Art and funding that had not been allocated, and our request was to get what's remaining, or a portion of what's remaining from our funding that had not been spent, because it needed to be spent by the end of this calendar year. And we demonstrated that we could spend it quite quickly to get that slice of pie. But unfortunately, that was declined. So the COVID money train has sailed, unfortunately.
I'm curious about the movies.
Movies.
The National
Theater Live. Yeah, so we have a free movie series, of course, which is, we use our space, the larger theater space, to stream movies that are more popular, more mainstream, that allow for anyone to come in and just have a night out at the theater at no cost to them unless they want to purchase concessions, which is just great to have people in the building. Any night that theater is sitting vacant, we're having money. So it's great to fill them again. I don't have all of those at top of mind, but I know
the National Theatre.
National Theatre Live. So we're doing streaming a production of Bologna, a production of Prima Facie, which is recently on Broadway, which was fabulous. And the third one is escaping me.
I went to over to Jane Higgins because they.
Oh, Jane Higgins Theater does this well.
They do, and I just went to see President Doctor and Noel Howard.
Yes.
It was so good.
That is the third. That is the third.
Oh, is it?
Yes.
Oh, okay.
Thanks for reminding me.
And then my friend who lives in near London, she's always telling me about all these great places she goes to. She's never in that theater. And she just went to see Grapes of Wrath. She said it was astounding. She
Yeah.
knew the story, she read her book. And to see it live, she said she and her friend were long in their eyes. It was so touching.
And that's, so the way that they do this screening is that they'll roll out new titles as the year progresses. So the ones that we've selected for our season are the only ones that we have available to us now. So come December or January, you can see, oh, there are 3 more titles that we could consider adding in. It comes at no cost to us. It's a split cost. So whatever we make in ticket sales, they receive 50% of that, we keep 50% of that. So the cost is our space and turn lights on and staff. That's all.
Well, they were one of the playhouses where during the COVID, that they would start on Wednesday and then for a whole entire week, they would screen those plays as many times as you want. So I watched my whole like 3 times ago. Oh, well, you're doing it at the theater.
We're doing it at the theater.
That's where I really got hooked in following the National Theater.
They have 2 different opportunities, right? They have National Theater Live, which is what we're screening at our theaters. And then what they have is National Theater at Home, which is a subscription service you can sign up for to see newly released shows. They don't overlap. So a show that's on the live platform that we would present does not show up on that. But I've also been hooked on the productions at home.
I enjoy your theaters.
Good.
But it's great to have people come to the theater.
Absolutely.
So what's the turnout about? It's a nice camaraderie.
For a movie? For a movie, it's usually, I would arrange something as delightful as A Christmas Carol had 120 films, whereas something more unknown may have 30. So it's a lovely community gathering.
Documentaries or
Say again?
the documentaries, do you show documentaries or just hourly movies?
It's a mix of both. We have some, one of our staff members who heads up our marketing team went to school for film. So I trust him in his selection of shows. And what he tries to do is pick a production that complements in one way the production that's on our stage. So when you see the effect, you'll see something that is sort of mirrors the themes of that show so that you're getting a rounded experience.
I don't know that much about the game, but I know about actors and actresses. Is it a permanent cast that you have, or just after production, you go through the process of new people auditioning? I wonder if you could just speak to that.
Yeah.
The caliber.
Yeah. The caliber is exceptional. I think, the caliber is exceptional. We do cast each show individually. We don't have a company. There are repeating faces that you'll see. It's a small state. And though we're starting to seek out folks from Boston or New York, doing so comes at a higher cost for us, both in terms of travel, covering that cost, and hosting them in a hotel or whatever during their stay. We are a union house, so we do employ actors equity on that list. So a portion, due to our agreement, a portion of every show is required to be union actors versus non-union actors. After a show is announced, so we just announced Angels in America, there's a window of time that we then need to announce the auditions that need to be held for that production. I think it's 45 days in order to hold an open call for production. So when we announced the season of 5 shows, they I think had 2 long weekends of just people coming in every 2 minutes. So I think over 150 people may have auditioned for this coming season. So there's quite a market out there. Yeah.
What I love about the actors is there's no competition. They work, you'll see them at Burbage, you'll see them at the Gamm, you'll see them at Trinity, and Woodbury, they all work together. There's not this sense of this, it's like we're all in it together, which is great.
It's true. I mean, we again, because we're a small state, a small theater community here, we share everything. So we are in constant communication with Trinity, with Burbage, with Woodbury, sharing costumes, sharing set pieces, saying, hey, this performer, what's the deal? It's a good community in terms of the collaboration that we've seen.
Are you able to trade mailing lists with other arts organizations?
If they allow it, I would love that. We have recently, there's a platform that allows us to sort of contribute our lists in order to say if someone else's list is on there, we can sort of talk through the trade. It would be great to get on their list, contribute as well. It's just that no other organizations in the state were using that platform. So I will do my due diligence to try and motivate them to consider it.
Art museums,
Say it again.
not just theaters, but art museums and other.
Correct. Any arts organization could opt in. They would accept
I'm a summer resident, so unfortunately I don't have the opportunity to go to the shows. But you mentioned that you have this 300-seat theater sitting there. Is that your goal for the stars to get into the 300-seat theater and maybe get back as opposed to Black Box theater?
The North Stars, without giving away too much, certainly includes a question about what that space means to us and how we can leverage it for what we are as an organization. And there have been a number of things thrown against the wall. It could be an education facility. It could be added rehearsal spaces for developing new work. It could be an additional small theater that can produce another series alongside others. It could be using the full space as it is. We're unpacking all of that as we plan and forecast what's possible in the future. It makes sense for the theater.
How long would you renovate it then?
Say it again?
Does it have to be renovated?
So depending on what we would decide, yeah, it would certainly be an aspect of the capital project that we need to complete.
You did one last year, the Boston thing.
The entrance was there, but it was still our standard space, the black box space. So you just walk through that proscenium theater to get into the box line. Yeah. That's the playful thing about black box space is you can turn it into whatever you want.
Which you do.
Which we definitely do.
They had 6 feet between the stage and the back. And it was like, how do you operate? These are grown people. They did.
Do you ever collaborate with the Theater by the Sea down here? This is a big summer theater down here. It would be interesting to be able to present at one of their shows, the upcoming show from Gamm. I don't know whether you have a connection to that.
We haven't explored that, not as
It's pretty full. I mean, I've been to a couple of shows.
It's unique though, right? Because Theater by the Sea produces musicals.
Musicals, yes.
Which is a different thing. Because not to say that we shouldn't or couldn't, but we have to make sure that there was, synergy.
But people who are going for that would consider it again, so
Absolutely.
The best production of Oklahoma I ever saw was at the game.
again.
It was so good. It was a long time ago, and he had different stages set up so that
That wouldn't have been the game. That would have likely been Ocean Stadium Theater, which was in the Games Hall. The only musical production we've done was the production that was running when the pandemic had started, which was Assassins by Steve
Did lots of brochures in the back.
Yes.
Take some for your friends.
Please.
What is Gamm Theatre?
It's Center for Fine Science Gamm Theatre. It's amazing.